something strange in your neighborhood. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters!
Welcome to Flick Check. I'm your host, Andrew Woltman. With me, as always, my sidekick slash band leader, Discount Paul Schaefer. How you doing today, Paul? 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 Ow! What? We're filming. Pay attention. Can you blame me? I still haven't got my keyboard. I don't have time. I have classes to go to. Why don't you go get it? Not worth it. At least put on headphones. Ugh. Let's talk some movie news. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has been cast as Black Adam in an upcoming Shazam movie. Now, The Rock has had his number of detractors over the years, but this has the possibility to be the greatest casting since Chris Pratt as Star-Lord. No, not that, too recent. Since Christopher Reeve as Superman. Nope. Somewhere in between. Let me put it this way, folks. I've read the comics. No one is better for Black Adam than Dwayne Johnson. Want to take a brief minute to pause and introduce you to my new backdrop. These are Korean movie posters, courtesy of my good friend Jillian Nadiak, who I have talked about before. I want to give her a special shout out. Thank you, Jillian. I would say that in Korean, but I'd probably mess it up. Back to movie news. Legendary actor Al Pacino has praised Guardians of the Galaxy and said that he would jump at the opportunity to be in a Marvel movie. Now, before you go getting too excited, it's time for another one of Andrew's story times. Back in 1984, actor and comedian Richard Pryor, a very funny man, went on Johnny Carson's Tonight Show to say that he was such a huge fan of the first two Superman movies. Now, the producers of Superman 3 jumped at this possibility and cast him as the villain in Superman 3, and it was awful. Don't get me wrong, Richard Pryor, I love his stand-up. He's hilariously funny, not safe for work, I might add. But he's hilarious. But he just felt so out of place, like kind of bumbling. Kind of the same thing we got from Ned Beatty in the first two Superman movies. And it wasn't even funny. I mean, it was just really ridiculous and over the top. Especially the scene where he goes skating down a building wearing a pink blanket as a Superman cape. That just... Ugh. I love Richard Pryor, don't get me wrong, but he had no place in a Superman movie. Now, am I saying that putting Michael Corleone in a Marvel movie would be a mistake? Not necessarily, but we can't treat people with roles just because they say they like something. This is the reason we have the civil service exam. We need to make sure that someone's qualified for the job that they're getting instead of just receiving it as some sort of favor for what you've done. So I do believe that there could be a place for Al Pacino somewhere in the Marvel Universe. It just really depends on what role and where you put him. Otherwise, I think that we should best keep the political favors out of it. Thanks for nothing, Paul. Today we are doing my first retro review, and we are talking about Ghostbusters, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary. Now, full disclosure, and this might be a little embarrassing, I had never seen Ghostbusters in one sitting before last Monday. Me and my friend Gavin, shout out, we took a day trip to Poughkeepsie where they were playing it on the big screen for 1 week. And I've heard about Ghostbusters before. I've seen parts of it. I've just never seen the entire thing in one sitting. And I loved it. It was hilarious. And it didn't even go the directions that I assumed it would, given my kind of knowledge of it. The angle that Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis and Ivan Reitman, they just found a really good angle on something that could be a gimmick. Like, I assume that everyone thinks that the Ghostbusters are quacks. Like, that's from my perception of it beforehand. They went the complete opposite direction. Like, they kind of demonstrated that, yeah, it's a little odd, but there's some truth to it. and people actually believe them. And I can never, ever in a million years say enough good things about Bill Murray. I mean, that is one person who is worthy of every single nice word said of them. In my head, I don't count the Garfield movies as having existed. Now, Bill Murray, he kind of has that Robert Downey Jr. quality to him, as in kind of a wise ass, moderately successful with women. Just the kind of guy that you want to hang around with because he's going to say something funny. And frankly, me and Gavin both fell out of our chairs laughing at the line, "Yes, it's true. He has no." He has such great delivery when it comes to everything. I mean, look at him in Caddyshack and look at him in Ghostbusters. You can hardly recognize, like, the style. This is a man who really knows how to attack a role and make you fall in love with it. Now, the angle of Rick Moranis' character, got a little tiresome, but I appreciated the geeky humor. It kind of reminded me of Jerry Lewis, and that's something I really appreciated, given that I love comedy. And of course, you got the sci-fi queen herself, Sigourney Weaver, in here.
Did you say Sigourney Weaver?
Yes, I did, Paul.
Oh man, she's beautiful.
Go back to your game, Paul.
I try to contribute.
Now, Sigourney Weaver, she's a very talented actress. She's done all these sci-fi movies and horror movies. This obviously isn't her most famous role. That will always be Ripley. But I really love what she did. She didn't make it a damsel in distress, because frankly, no one puts Sigourney Weaver in a corner. There's some elements of that, but it doesn't overbear. She kind of has this femme fatale thing going on, which is very appreciated. I think that we need more strong women in films. Like, there's a lot of them out there. We can never have enough. Frankly, I'd love to see a female superhero movie any day now. Come on, Feige, I know you can make it happen. Ghostbusters, it's going to be one of my new classics. I'm going to buy the DVD. I loved it. It's funny, it's quirky, it's entertaining, and it doesn't do anything that you really expect it to do. So I'm going to have to give it a check plus. Why do you keep cutting over to him? He's just playing video games.
We have to cut over. It's in his contract.
It's in his contract. Wait, you mean we're paying him to just sit there and play video games?
Yeah, about $1 million an episode.
Unbelievable. Sorry, just having a conversation with my producer, Steve. Once again, this has been Flick Check. I'm your host, Andrew Woltman. And with me, but not really paying attention, is my sidekick / band leader, Discount Paul Schaefer. Say goodbye, Paul.
Boom! I'm kicking ass.
I didn't think so. So, remember, if you're not sure about a flick, let me give it a check. Have a good night.
If there's something weird and it don't look good, who you gonna call?